My name is Heather Cotter, and on behalf of the Penn State Chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine, and our co-sponsors, which include the International Affairs and Debate Association, the Leftist Symposium, the Latino American Student Association, and the Progressive Students Alliance, which consists of some dozen on-campus student groups, I'd like to welcome you all to our event. The mission of the Students for Justice in Palestine is dedicated to educate the Penn State student body and local community about the Palestinian crisis and promote justice, human rights, liberation, and self-determination for the Palestinian people. We aim to bring together the diverse faculty and students of Penn State University to provoke an intellectual discourse about the situation. Tonight we will be engaging in a conversation with a renowned scholar and one of the world's foremost political scientists, Dr. Norman Finkelstein. It's a measure of the importance of the topic and the interest throughout the world on the subject that we invited Dr. Norman Finkelstein. Dr. Finkelstein's visit here seems timely as ongoing recent events in the Middle East, particularly following the results of the recently published United Nations fact-finding mission led by jurist Richard Goldstone, who investigated war crimes in Gaza. These events play an important role in providing our audience with a unique insight into the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and U.S. foreign policy in that region. This is particularly conducive as we find ourselves in a time where we are constantly being overwhelmed with inadequate, inaccurate, and imbalanced media coverage of the events unfolding in the present-day Israel and the Palestinian-occupied territories. Tonight, above all else, we hope reason will take precedence. First, however, I'd like to introduce you to our chairman for this event this evening, Professor Arthur Goldschmidt. Arthur Goldschmidt is a professor emeritus of Middle East history at Penn State University, where he taught from 1965 to 2000. He has published numerous books and is best known for writing an introductory textbook, A Concise History of the Middle East, which is now in its 9th edition. In addition, he has written many articles, chapters, and edited volumes and book reviews. For his intensive work with both undergraduate and graduate teaching assistants at Penn State, as well as his textbook, Dr. Goldschmidt received the Middle East Studies Association's Mentoring Award in 2000. He has lived and conducted research in Egypt and other Middle Eastern countries. He loves working with students on campus, and we have the pleasure of having him chair tonight's event. Please join me in welcoming Professor Arthur Goldschmidt.
I thank each and every one of you for coming tonight. I feel myself that I am subjected constantly to inadequate, inaccurate, and unhelpful information about the Middle East. And even though I am retired, I still try to keep up with what's going on, and I still, to some extent, try to teach other people about what's going on. I see this as a wonderful opportunity for me and for all of us to become better informed. However, I'm going to start off by reading something which appeared in, of all places, Ma'ariv, which is a very respected Israeli newspaper. This was taken from the editorials in the Israeli press, 19th of October, 2009. Ma'ariv accuses Jewish lecturers, such as Norman Finkelstein and Adam Shapiro, for helping to stoke the anti-Israel atmosphere on many U.S. college and university campuses. The author suggests that students or an anti-establishment public work easily against Israel, which is seen as a colonialist institution. And it believes that student Jewish groups are, at present, ill-equipped to contend with an empire of criticism and hate. Well, this is not the Norman Finkelstein that I know, but nevertheless it does suggest that if Jewish organizations and other pro-Israel organizations at Penn State were to read Ma'ariv as I do, they would want to be here tonight. And I hope that maybe a few of them did show up, even if they said they wouldn't. Dr. Finkelstein has been here several times before. I probably don't remember all the times, but I definitely remember his coming here as part of a panel in November 1989, and I chaired that as well. And I also heard him speak here in the spring of 2007. He's somebody who I'm always glad to see here at Penn State. And I don't know whether he's going to be pro something or anti something. I just look forward to being well informed. As many of you know, he did teach Middle East history and politics at DePaul University in Chicago until Alan Dershowitz decided that he could take the place of a tenure review committee in conflict and beyond chutzpah on the misuse of anti-Semitism and the abuse of history. Probably many of you know of other books he's written, and I expect as well that he will talk a little bit about some of the things he has written, is writing, or will write in the future. It is my great pleasure now to turn the lectern over to Dr. Norman G. Finkelstein.
Thank you for having me. Let me just do a sound check. People in the last row, if you hear me fine, just raise your hand. Okay, not perfect. So let's just try to just adjust a little. How is that? Better? Say, okay. So I think that should be right. Well, thank you for having me here this evening. And as Dr. Goldschmidt said, I've been here several times before. I do remember being here for that occasion in 1989. I think Dr. Goldschmidt discreetly left out it was a rather riotous occasion. On the panel were myself and Wolf Blitzer. At that time, Mr. Blitzer was wearing his pro-Israel hat. Now he's wearing his I'm a neutral news reporter hat. And I remember it was not a pleasant evening. It was in the midst of the first Intifada, and passions were heated. And what I most recall, I don't know if Dr. Goldschmidt recalls, but the next morning there was only one plane going out of Penn State. You only see, I think, about 6 or so people, and Wolf Blitzer refused to be in the same plane as me. That's correct.
I do remember that.
And that's actually not meant just for its humorous value, but it's going to be the subject of my talk this evening, which is most people in this room weren't even born in 1989. And I myself only got involved in the Israel-Palestine conflict very late in life. Relatively speaking, I had only started to research the topic and write on it when I was already 31 years old. And it was already a long history before I became involved in the subject. And so the obvious question is, why is it that this conflict has endured for so long? Why is it that it is the longest recorded occupation in modern history, namely the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza? What accounts for the durability of the conflict such that one generation passes to the next and there doesn't seem to be any progress, let alone resolution of the conflict? And so far as I can tell, there are two standard explanations for why this conflict just goes on and on and on. One explanation is that the Israel-Palestine conflict is a uniquely complex